I willed my body to lift me up, and then chose to step out, a moment when something is created and a juncture in the forking paths forms. It was fortuitous that today, on a day of pathways, it looked as if a winding path had been printed onto the unusually flat surface of the sea. Of course, I projected meaning onto it. I decided the place where I decided to move to this place would be the best place to start. I remember sitting in the window of the fort, bright blue strands of hair covering oblivious and naive brains. The blue of the sea was a similar hue, and my head seemed to melt into the view from that window. I became one with my surroundings. I chose here. But things change, and upon my return, strangers had draped it in fabric and rope and turned it into a little home to have a picnic in. Someone else is making memories there now. Again fortuitous that the place where I chose what home was going to be had turned into one of its own today. Of course, I projected meaning onto it. This beautiful obstacle changed my course. I decided the car park above was the next best option of where to start. That first day of first knowing this speck of map, we had parked up there and watched the chaotic weather change, rolling in from the right window and engulfing the car in dark grey cloud and hail, then exiting stage to the left where beams of new light raced in to fill the space left behind. The chaos and impermanence of Cornish weather excited me, and I rooted down and chose here. Today, though, I am submissive and light, blowable in the wind. I flip a coin and follow it. Heads is left and tails is right. I notice that knowing I stand on a one-way road, my doctrine of past experience means I instinctively wanted to go left, as if all my times of driving around this headland has leaked into my pedestrian mind. It occurs to me that in 5 years I've never walked around the headland this way. Force of habit, I suppose. Coming back along the road from a different perspective, I notice new little gifts the world has to offer. Graffiti of a bee with boobs, for example. I come to an interesting point in my journey as I realise my personal definition of what's left and right will greatly impact my route. As I look at the sea, is the way I came from a truer right, or the leafy path across the road? This autonomy I possess I use to hopefully generate a new experience. Similar to life, my path is a collaboration between chaos and my perception. Together we decide, as the leafy path looks more desirable to me, it is the truer right. But it wasn't meant to be. Left or ahead or whatever it is, it is. Then a second bee with boobs. Then the most fascinating spiderwebs. I am mesmerised, thinking they could resemble a woven web of experience, or that each web is a map of potential paths leading inevitably to one spot in the middle. I project meaning onto the web. Then I realise that what I'm looking at is in fact a trap. I turn away, again manipulating my fate by choosing that the path over the more mysterious side of the road is the truer right. I've never explored over there. This time, I get to go right. I feel lucky. I say to myself, it must be so. One of the great joys in life. Tiny bridges. This one in particular seems almost pointless, but joyful. To my left now is a steep drop. As a joke between chaos and perception, I flip the coin. The crown on the tail side says I am pardoned. unaware that I would have never listened to the face on the other side in any other reality anyway. The crown has sent me onto some kind of beautiful bunker, yet another brand new discovery. But this somehow leads me back to exactly where I started. Under these conditions, I don't mind, as the liminal time of day casts glorious colours and patterns. This time being in the car park, I notice something on the ground that reads, "A stranger is a friend you've yet to meet." I think to myself, bold of you to assume that I'll meet them. A fraction of a second, a slightly different turning, can mean the difference. Well, here we go again. This time, I see a plastic bag in a tree. I don't project meaning onto it. Knowing this time of the bees with boobs' existence, I wave as I go past. They are no longer strangers I've yet to meet. Did you notice? I changed the pattern. I don't flip the coin at the same points as before. I cast these potential routes aside, lured by offerings ahead. What else could those other routes offer me now? Again and again now, along this road, I ignore junctures I might have flipped the coin at before. I change my definition of what is truer left and truer right. The words left and right sound so sure, so certain. I am not this. Nowadays, we have awareness that we are situated in a boundless universe, our planet a sphere, no real up or down. Still, we need words like up and down to function. We must collapse the existential and expanding into the comprehensible, into things we can define and choose between, things to want or to not want. Like the universe's underlying lack of direction, states of being like ambivalence and desire are much more about movement than destination, more about themselves and their essence than whatever it is they are projected onto this time. Now, a viewpoint. I'd like to augment my experience with it, to see more. But I don't have £1. I only have a 2p. I smirk to myself at this very on-the-nose metaphor. Perhaps I can manage some other ones. Of course, our individual financial status limits and impacts our choices, but this is just the tip of the iceberg. Below the surface, much like the underlying awareness of the directionlessness of the universe, are much greater examples of limitation. Immovable, imposing, neoliberalist, solid and icy masses closing in on us, forcing us to reroute, warping the space in which we can move in, choosing our choices for us and presenting them on platters as if it was a nourishing feast. Even choices like, what kind of art should I make? What mind once thought, what kind of art do I want to make, now asks, what kind of art can I make a living from? The icebergs are melting. The autopiloted nature of this landscape is eating away at itself, and nor you or I can make any decision, make any call to make it stop. This is why we must remember to pull focus back in on ourselves, pull our heads out of digital ether and into our immediate environments, where there are words like up and down, instead of spheres, immovable icebergs, boundless universes. To make quote-unquote good choices. In what can we make the calls? What can we change? What choices can we make? So, left or right? Left this time. Through my camera's lens, I notice a bright, friendly little orb following my focal point. I project meaning onto it. Once a stranger, but now one I've met, only at this exact place, under this exact light, at this exact angle of reflection. I walk it over to wait at the platforms. I turn away and wonder if I will see it again. It turns out that my coin has taken me from the place I made the decision to move to this town and led me to the very reason I ever came. The reason I am now creating this project, speaking these words. The reason I have become the exact measurement of this version of me that I'd need to be to have all of these thoughts. Was it meant to be? I say to myself, it could just as well be otherwise. Further up the university's path, I stop at the juncture that leads to my studio to flip the coin one final time. Do I go and work my exhausted body further, or do I go home and rest? I am grateful to the Crown for relieving me of my duty. I will go tomorrow instead. There I will present you with your choices. Well, here they are. They may look insignificant, like 3 different old wooden items, but they are actually portals. Do you choose A, B, or C?